All right, let's get into it. Starting off with the Beth Center Bulldogs. They went 1-9 last year, 0-7 in conference. Kind of a fluky season for them. They lost, three of their biggest playmakers during the year. Game 2, they lost Colby Coons, their quarterback. Game 1, they lost Aiden Simchek, their main running back. And then later in the year, they lost Blaze Vlikos, who is their main target. As far as throwing the ball goes. So that's three of your main playmakers and kind of led Beth Center to a 1-9 record. So a little bit of a misunderstanding if you look at the record. But, they're coming into this year and all three of those guys are healthy and coming back. 2 years ago, they competed for a playoff spot. I think they got 7 wins or something like that. So is this team, kind of poised to take another step, maybe looking toward a playoff spot in this lower number division here?
They're definitely going to head in the right direction if they can stay healthy. I think that's the biggest thing for them. Bill Koss is a big component on that offense and defense, especially. And Colby Coons, a lot's going to ride on him. He was the young quarterback last year going into the starting role. And a big thing for him was, time in the pocket. He was I wasn't at the California game, but that was your guys' first game you covered last year, I know. And seeing video and highlights from that game, it looked like for majority of the game, if not the whole game, he was quote unquote running for his life, a lot of times, not getting a lot of protection. So the offensive line definitely needs some work up at Beth Center, but lots going to ride on those two guys I just mentioned. And Colby Coons of Blazeville Cost. I think they take another step. I think they improve from a 1-9 record. I think that team last year was better than 1-9. Just unfortunate circumstances, losing 3 of your best athletes, losing your starting quarterback in the second game of the season never helps at all. Especially, Steeler fans listening to this podcast can attest to that, especially after last season too. But yeah, I think a lot's just going to ride on those two guys I've mentioned, and the offensive line play's got to get better for Beth Center.
Yeah, down the stretch, I think we've saw a lot of improvement coming for their offensive line. It was very young. They bring back all 5 starters this year, so having all that experience is going to help tremendously.
And that's key. That is really key. They were young last year, inexperienced. I get all that. I went through that too. But, just they got to show the improvements. This year might not be the year for Beth Center to make the playoffs. Like I said, I think this is the year they make strides. The record might not show up because there's not as many non-conference games. Like I was really looking forward to Beth Center West Green. I think that's a good opponent for them to look at, and see what they really have. That was going to be a good placement game for Beth Center. Not necessarily competing in the Century 2A conference, but for next season as well. I think the next couple years you could see Beth Center kind of revive the football program and be back to a winning power that they once were.
And defensively too, last year from the Bulldogs, I think we saw a lot of improvement down the stretch. Keeping Frazier under 20 points even in a loss was impressive. They got 10 starters back on that side of the ball. Defensively, as far as like the trenches go, they weren't getting a lot of pushback, and that's going to be important for them, trying to get some pressure on the quarterback. But as far as like the secondary and linebackers go, I think they're one of the strongest teams in that area in this conference. That's going to help them too. Are we going to see enough improvement defensively to maybe kind of help them compete against teams that they're not as talented in?
Yeah, it's definitely going to help. It definitely help. I think the defense will help them bring them in games. The old expression, their defense, could be their best offense, per se. Try to keep the other team's offense off the field as much as you can. And just try to do that. Their offense, they got a lot to work on. So. But like I said, having those key pieces back, it'll be good. But just they got to keep them healthy. That's and work with the offensive line as well. But yeah, the defense will definitely keep them in games. Would necessarily put them over at the top against the per se Wash High McGuffey. That I will say probably not. But it could keep those keep them in those games, especially with McGuffey getting a new quarterback. Learning that veer offense will be difficult. That offense is an offense designed to blow up a scoreboard. So that could help Beth Center in that game. I mean, seriously though, the veer offense. I mean, McGuffey does score a lot of points. They have the last couple years. They've had some really explosive players the last couple years, and they still have several now. But that offense is really just a clock winding offense. And you to keep the other team's defense on the field as long as possible.
Yeah, the defense is going to be extremely important for them if they want to stay in games or win games, because I think the offense is going to be average to above average on a weekly basis, and one of the key components of that is going to be if Colby Coons is able to overcome his injury from last year. Obviously, he's fully healthy right now, as we know of. How important is it for him? I know if he is able to overcome that injury and be the quarterback we think he will be, has enough protection behind 5 returning starters. Is he possibly going to be the best quarterback in this conference? Or does he have a license to make that claim at the end of the year?
There's still Braden Boggs is really solid. Frazier, those two guys. As of right now, you could put those guys up there right now. I mean, Zach Schwartz, graduated from Wash High. I would say he was top 2. Marshall Whipke graduated from McGuffey. He would be the other one I throw in there. I'm not sure if Charleroi quarterback returns. I'm not sure about that. I thought he graduated. I was gonna say I thought he graduated. So Charleroi got a new quarterback. I'm pretty sure every team in this conference has a new quarterback other than Beth Center and Frazier. Waynesburg coming down has Darnell Henderson. Or Darnell Johnson, excuse me. So they still have, so yeah. I mean, those three right there. I just mentioned Johnson with Coons and Boggs. I would say those guys are your 3 best as of right now that we have seen have varsity experience.
And of course, Washai might be coming in with a transfer. We're not exactly sure of that yet, but we'll touch on that a little bit later.